welcome everybody to this Friday's Inclusive Entrepreneur briefing. I'm Jacqueline Winstanley, the founder and CEO of Universal Inclusion and the Inclusive Entrepreneur. I'm an international advisor on increasing equality of access to life's opportunities, particularly around inclusive cities and organisations. I'm starting to be known as an author, a poet and a public speaker. I lead on the Women in Enterprise APPG for Diversity and Inclusion, and Philia and the Pink Shoe Club. I'm a trustee for Disability Rights UK. I'm the co-chair in respect of the Young Architects for the ICCC. I chair the Foundation for Independent Living Trust, Fluidity, Courage and Sparkle. I'm Ability Today's Advisory Board Chair, an ambassador for Glamsticks, and also for the 50-50 Parliament campaign. And most recently, I'm an advisory board member for the New England Sports for Women. So I'd like us to do introductions. Now it's quite interesting because I tried to do this in order. So what I'd like to do first of all, we've got some very experienced entrepreneurs with us today. And can I just say as well, for people that have put out some work this week, you're all doing some great work and it's actually fantastic to see that at this moment in time. We're expecting James Holt to join us as well because he's just launched his new single today. So hopefully James will pop along at some point. And if we do get a chance, we might play James's single. So I wonder, Helen, if you could please start us off and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm privileged to join this session and thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Helene Martin-G. I'm Parliamentary Advisor on Entrepreneurship and International Affairs and founder of Pink Shoe, which is a network for leading women and diverse people to enable us all to be the best we can be and to support lifelong development. Thank you.
Lovely. Alex, are you comfortable introducing yourself today?
Yeah, of course. So, you can see me now. So my name is Alex. I am, as well as being one of Carol's students, I am the member of Youth Parliament for Stockport. So my current work is working with young people in Stockport to try and promote their voice, especially because young people are quite disenfranchised at the moment. So my kind of key mission is to promote the voice of young people in Stockport.
Lovely, thank you so much. Carol?
Oh, I'm Carol Whitehead. I am the Managing Director of the Zebra Partnership. This year's our 20th anniversary. So we focus on publishing, events, campaigns, marketing and PR. I'm also a lecturer at Access Creative College, and you've just met Alex, one of my students. And I lecture on marketing, business and the event production management. I am also a Global Goodwill Ambassador working with the United Nations and the People's Hub on the Sustainable Development Goals. And I champion Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is gender equality, and number 10, which is reducing inequalities, and also 17 with partnership working. I do a lot of things. So I'm also a 50-50 Parliament ambassador, and I am supporting them on the Ask Her to Stand campaign, and I'm event consultant for Philia. I've won quite a few awards, 4 awards actually in the last 6 months, and this week I found out I won the We Are the City Rising Stars Champion of Champions Award as well, which was quite nice, and lots of other things as well.
Thank you so much. Aaron?
Hi everyone, so I'm Aaron Hornback. I am the founder and director of Horizon Health Network, where the whole concept of Horizon Health Network is to look at the whole person, the whole being of a person, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Also looking at the world that they're in to make sure that the world they're in is healthy, and that they are bringing a healthy aspect to their world. So from personal training to pastoral care, because I'm also an ordained minister, to giving reflection pieces or little thoughts here and there, but really helping the person find well-being, and knowing that you can, and it's just finding that road to that place of well-being. Also, I'm a part of Zebra Partnership. I'm associate director, working along with Carol Ann with events and things of that nature. And as some of you found out last Friday, I can sing. So, which I've been doing that for all my life. So that's a little bit about me today.
Lovely. And as we'll see later, you're also one of our health and wellbeing gurus, which is very kind of you. Isabella, do you want to speak, introduce yourself?
My name's Isabel Burrows. I graduated from Cambridge University last year with a degree in English literature. I'm Noreen's niece, and I've been helping her with some initiatives for market accents.
Lovely. Thank you. Well, welcome. Noreen?
Hi, everyone, and thank you. Yeah, it's good to have Isabel on board. She's very welcome, and I thought she'd enjoy the call today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Noreen Cesario, and I run a company called Market Accents, which does totally the strategic marketing and communications. I am also quite an advocate for women's economic empowerment and enterprise and trade, and I'm involved in a number of global and UK initiatives within this sphere. I'm also a Pink Shoe member, very proud, and together with Jacqueline and Helen, who is our founder. So I think that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Napur, welcome, welcome. Isn't this wonderful to have us all in the same screen from around the world? It's lovely.
It's fabulous. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here and to meet you and have so much to say to and to know from each one of you. My name is Napur, and I am a musician and a writer. And I'm here today because of a song that I've written, and that speaks to this crisis that we're in, the coronavirus crisis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. John, could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is John Keel, and I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I realized when I was 19 years old, I didn't want to work for anybody else. So I was stuck on the path of, so how will I put a roof over my head? And with a partner, I've built one of the largest recording studios in New York City. We do all kinds of recording, music, film scores. We mix motion picture, television product. And I met Jacqueline through, because I was involved with an initiative at the United Nations called Music as a Natural Resource. And we went around the world and found very interesting programs that used music to foster social development and, you know, equal rights, education. And Jacqueline and I met each other at something called the Windsor Consultations. So I love my twice-a-year trip to Windsor Castle. And I'm also, through that, I became musical director for Jacqueline's concert fundraiser in Liverpool. And I brought Napur on board. Napur and I met each other when we were 25 years old. And I won't tell you how many years that was ago, but I brought her on board because she's involved with a musical that highlights a really marvelous woman from history named Celia Sanchez, who is the woman behind the Cuban Revolution, a fascinating woman from history. And as a matter of fact, the song that she's doing is lifted from the musical and sort of a retooling with this, it resonates with this revolution that I think we're actually all part of. This coronavirus is going to turn out to be quite a cadence point, I think, for humanity.
Okay, thank you. And it's lovely to have you with us today. Lady Sharon?
just unmute myself. Hello, good afternoon and good morning to everybody. Good to see everybody on here today. Nice crowd. Yes, I'm Lady Sharon. I'm the owner and director of a company called Glamsticks. I've been bespoking mobility aids since about 2012 now. I'm a multi-award winning business, which I'm quite proud of. I'm up for nomination for another 2 awards this year. Glamsticks started as a cottage industry in 2009, and I bought it. And since I've bought the company in 2012, I now sell internationally. So it's growing quite nicely. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Just in time, Grant. Perfect timing. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Grant Logan. I run Ability Today, which is a social enterprise supporting my disabled community, which is an online platform, which is a website with a directory of information and also news portals. So we provide news from around the world on over 35 disabilities. And I'm very pleased to say that on Wednesday we launched our Academy for Disabled Journalists. It took a while to get here, but we finally, in partnership with the National Council for the Training of Journalists, had our first lesson online on Wednesday. Originally it was meant to be based here at our office in the classroom, but due to circumstances we managed to now put it online. And we actually now have students from all over the country, from Manchester to Scotland and all over England now tuning in on a weekly basis to do online teaching with the National Council for the Training of Journalists. Yeah, we finally got it off the ground, and very happy to say that it's up and running.
Bravo.
That's it.
That's really incredible. Congratulations. It's great. And it's great to be part of Ability today. It's just amazing, really is. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide, please. What I want to do now is just talk a little bit about what is the Inclusive Entrepreneur and what we'll be looking at today. So for those of you that are not familiar with us, the Inclusive Entrepreneur is a global network that supports people who want to work in enterprise who have protected characteristics, and any partner that would like to work with us as we achieve that. Predominantly in the past we've done face-to-face events and conferences, etc. And we'd actually developed a digital platform which we'd launched maybe 2 months before the coronavirus. And I suppose in response to how our members were feeling, we very quickly decided we would do a weekly, and Carol actually posed it, which is quite nice, as our hashtag Inclusive Entrepreneurs Online, as it's now known, just to give people an opportunity to share what they're doing, which is absolutely incredible when you listen to it today, to get an update on what the government's proposing in response to coronavirus, what's happening in the health service in response to coronavirus, and support each other. And one of the key things that came out when we started to talk to each other in that first week was people felt they didn't have a voice. So what we're hoping to achieve from the briefings is sharing the information, but actually more importantly, to get your voices heard. And I'm very honoured to be doing this with you. So what we're going to look at today, we've changed our top heading from the Carpe Diem to This Too Will Pass. And I think that's possibly what we're feeling in respect of this now, that we are where we are. We're now learning to adapt to this, but it will pass. And you know, the positive things that we're doing are going to help us get through that. We're going to look at some generic business advice, the disability related support, our health and wellbeing section, and we're going to showcase some incredible inclusive entrepreneur, Napua and John, this week. And obviously at the end we have a Q&A session. So the first thing that we're going to look at again, now, if I remind people, and for new people, we do have slides at the end of the presentations, and we will email this to you, that has links to most of the things we're going to talk about. So we've looked in the past at a lot of government business support, and there is a link now to it's almost like a self-assessment process you can go through that was, it will ask you, are you a business with a sole trader, limited company, how many employees, etc., and takes you through an assessment process to see what support is out there for you. We've talked in the past about the self-employment income support scheme, which again, the details are there on how you can apply. The feedback we're getting from this is mixed. It's very mixed, and I think it's still in that respect, when people work through the HMRC responses to this, it's going to be interesting to see how this works. The business loans and the cash grants, I wanted us to talk a little bit today, because what they're now calling the bounce back loans. And we have every week been reminding the Chancellor that what's been offered so far is really great, unprecedented in some terms, but we were still slipping through the net. Now, the bounce back loan has allowed some of us to actually have some assistance from government, and quite quickly. And in a minute, if people are comfortable talking about that process, anybody that's actually done that, if they'd feel comfortable doing that, it would be nice to hear from you. Again, it's a loan. So, I mean, we're not financially qualified. We're not advising anybody to take out a loan. What we're actually commenting on is that it's a new thing that the government's brought out. It's based on if you are a business, and you literally can say to them in a very quick questionnaire what your average turnover is, and they give you, I think it's 25% of your average turnover in terms of a loan that you could access very quickly. That loan, there are no payments to be made on that loan for the first 12 months and no interest. During that time, the government meets those payments, and that's including interest payments. And at the moment, it's set at 2.5%, and you're allowed six years to make repayments on that loan. So we're not, as I say, not advertising, advocating, etc., just making you aware of it. Now, is there anybody that's looked at this who feels they'd like to comment on whether it was easy, etc.? If not, don't worry. Aaron?
Yeah, so I actually applied for it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it online through my bank, and it was really straightforward. And I understand that there's no credit checks and all that. So if you're worried about all that, it's literally, you just state, yep, I sole trader or business, whatever the requirements are there. And you put in your turnover, the percentage that, the 25% that would make up the amount for the loan, and then just go through the whole process. And within 10 minutes, I would say, I was approved, and within a day, I'll have the loan amount into my account.
I did it 2 days ago, and I'm still actually waiting to hear from my bank whether I'm approved or not. I haven't heard anything as of yet. How did you hear? Was it email?
No, it was on, once I finished on the actual website, it came up with a window saying your money will be in your account within a day.
All right, okay.
I think there are some banks that aren't as straightforward and easy.
Yeah.
Go through the process.
The form was easy, but
Yeah.
they said they would get in touch and let me know, when they've processed it. And like I say, that was 2 days ago, and I'm actually still waiting.
Okay, that's interesting, because obviously this loan is going through lots of different banks, and they're all going to have their own ways of doing this. What I didn't say, what I forgot to say was, it's what's interesting with this particular loan is it's 100% backed by government.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
The theory is, if for whatever reason, you know, we don't recover because of coronavirus and people are not in a position to repay the loan, the government has guaranteed the loan. Now, I will put a caveat to that, because what I have heard, and we're trying to check this out, is that some of the banks are actually saying you may still be personally liable if that happens. Now, again, I don't think that was the intention of government. And as we've seen with other things they've put into place, the banks have somehow tried to tweak it a little bit, shall we say, and the government has come back very firmly and said, no, that's not what was intended. So we're hoping that that will be the case. And whilst, again, it's not going to help all of us, but it is starting to support some of us who are in a position to do that and feel confident enough that they would be able to make those payments going forward. Or if not, that the government, recognising the position that we're in, has put that in place. So it's nice actually this week to be able to have some good news in terms of how people can be supported and how they're starting to be supported. So as I say, all of the links are on the slide that we will send to you in respect of all the other things that are out there. That there is another, this is a little bit of a rumour, I don't know how true it is, but the business disruption grant that was only available to start to people who had business premises and were registered for business rates, not necessarily paying them, but registered for them, because a lot of small businesses are registered but do not pay them, they're exempt. It appears that the Chancellor is asking each authority to broaden that. So it's worth you getting in touch with your local authority to see whether you would qualify for that, because they're actually, what he was saying was, people that, for example, you might have a hair salon and the main salon owner is registered for the business rates, but there could be 3 or 4 businesses operating from that salon. So they've asked them to broaden it. So it might be worth a conversation, and we'll see what happens on that one. The thing that I wanted us to look at today as well is, as we've started to see, there is a move to start to open the economy, so to speak. Great. If you can't read this, don't worry, because again, you will get a copy of this. So what we've tried to do is tease out, just to try to discuss, it affects some of us, not all of us. There's a very good summary that we've put together, and if you can imagine, I think the guidance was something like 50 pages of guidance. We've tried to look at the simplest blog, if you will, or I can't remember who's actually done this. It's Sparrow and Co. have done a good summary of, you know, try to condense the 50 pages into something that is a little bit easy to take into account and digest. So this covers, we're not going to go through it all, but this summary will look at who should go back to work. And from what we can gather, it's very much, if you can work from home, stay at home. If you can't, go back to work. But there's no doubt there's lots of confusion about this. So I think this is a little bit watch this space. When did this come into effect? Now, obviously, it's a staged process. And although people decided to go back to work on Monday, a lot of them, it actually came into effect from Wednesday. How should employers determine if their workplace is safe for employees to return? What we've seen is a move from this being a government responsibility, per se, and actually putting this in the realms of the Health and Safety Executive, so that employers are being given guidance, but they will be expected to comply with what government is putting out. And I think that's why they put it into the realm of Health and Safety Executive, who may visit a place of employment, or if an employee feels that they're not in a safe environment, they could actually approach them to say, look, you know, I don't feel, and I believe anonymously, I don't feel I'm working in a safe environment. And I would guess within the realms of that, there may be fines, and as people can be fined or closed down if they're not working in accordance with that. So again, it's going to be really interesting. The groups Are there any groups of employees to which employers will need to give particular consideration? And that, although obviously the summary will be more detailed, absolutely. So for instance, if your workplace is going back to work, or if you have employees and you're wanting to bring them back, but they themselves are at risk from being in that workplace environment, then again, employers need to consider this and may not be able to bring them back, or have conversations about how they're going to do things differently. What if an employee can only use public transport to get to work, and the public transport system, as we're being told at the moment, you know, almost being encouraged to stay local, talk of using bicycles and things, talk of widening pavements to allow us to do more local and independent travel than necessarily being on public transport. So all of that's covered in this summary. How does the move to go back to work affect employees who are furloughed? And again, this is something that's going to transpire. The Chancellor's allowed the scheme to continue, I believe, till the end of September. It's going to be conversations between businesses and employees on whether this is possible. And it is all designed to keep everybody safe still, and that safe distancing in place. What about employees who are in other parts of the UK? So again, we have unfortunately a position where we have different phases of this in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, etc. And so again, there's a bigger picture here as well. It talks about whether employers can insist that employees come into work. And again, this is going to be conversations about the employee's particular circumstances. If you have children and your children aren't back at school, for instance, if your health means you are still self-isolating, you're furloughed, etc., all of these conversations need to be had. And then obviously finally it goes into enforcement of the guidance. It's a very, very interesting read, so please do have a look at that. Okay, I'd like us to move on to disability related support now. The issues are the same. We've had a slight increase, if you will. I think at this point, what I'd like to do today is actually continue with this slide, but then we'll look at the recommendations again. So the issues are very much the same for us. Do we consider that our voice is being heard in respect of the COBRA meetings? Is the representation within those meetings? Is diversity and inclusion on the agenda when they're having the discussions? We've specifically asked the government to consider, and I think when we do the recommendations that will be clearer. I'll just give you a little update on response from government. Obviously the bounce back loans are very welcome. We have not yet had a response from any of our questions directly to government or through any of our associate organisations or individual contact with MPs. What I have seen, and thank you to Helen for letting us know about this, there is an APPG taking place. It's actually the Entrepreneurs APPG that to date haven't really looked at diversity and inclusion, but MP Lisa Cameron is actually hosting one of the events, and I've sent a link to people to sign up to this event, because what it's looking at is the impact on disabled entrepreneurs as a result of COVID. So that should be a very interesting APPG to contribute to. The Access to Work Award, very interesting things going on with the Access to Work Award at the moment. Last time, if you remember, I said we'd been told that in respect of queries or any new applications, the Access to Work team were saying only if you are a key worker will your communication be given priority. An interesting concept. Sadly, what we're hearing more and more is the difficulties people are having. You know, we understand to a degree because of the circumstances at the moment, their own staff are possibly working from home, so the administration of it is harder than it is usually, and it's difficult enough without COVID. So it is quite difficult for people in terms of submitting requests for payment of support workers, etc., and all the things that you would normally approach access to work for. So if we could possibly look at the recommendation slide, Sarah, please. Okay, so just reiterating what we've asked Access to Work to do. For those of you that don't know, the award is capped, and if somebody's actually met the level of their cap, they're not able to access any additionality or any of the ergonomic adjustments they might need at home to continue working from home. We've asked them to suspend it. We've asked them to fast track any new claims, because what's quite interesting is there is growth within our sector, and other people may find themselves, through no fault of their own, not in mainstream employment and want to consider self-employment. So we don't want them to just say that we can't apply to have an Access to Work award to opening a business at the moment, because just because we are disabled entrepreneurs, we're still able to do that. We're able to contribute, we're able to innovate, and we may have some of the solutions on how we respond to COVID. We've asked them to suspend the annual turnover requirement. We are required to meet a certain level of income each year, and if we don't, we can have our award removed. So we've asked them to remove that, whether that's temporarily. We've suggested for the next 2 years. We've asked them to accept digital submission of payment requests. I did have a conversation the other day where if you are employed and in receipt of Access to Work, they will accept that, but they will not accept that for self-employed. I've asked them to reconsider that. That just seems incredibly strange, that there ought not to be a difference. If they accept that an employer may not be available to sign off on a payment, etc., for somebody who was in a mainstream employed position, there's no difference for us who can't do the same thing at the moment. So I've asked them to reconsider that. We've actually asked for the award period of review to be extended. So normally we are reviewed every year, and certain criteria would indicate whether we would be allowed to continue receiving the award. We don't think that would be fair at the moment. We've asked them to extend our awards as they are for a further 2 years without review. We've asked for fast tracking of any additionality claims, particularly for people who have support workers who are self-isolating or on 12-week lockdown themselves. That brings about additional costs, but we've not had any direction on this at the moment. We've asked them to recognise and consider at the moment the way disabled entrepreneurs manage their complex health conditions, which will be compounded at the moment, particularly in terms of mental health and well-being. Consider additional measures of support which do not require us to give up our Access to Work award. Some of the things that the Chancellor's put into place meant we would have had to close our business, which was a contradiction really. And again, we keep asking for the amendment to the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme to recognise the particular needs of disabled entrepreneurs. And again, you will recall that I did have a request to speak to the BBC. They still haven't come back to me. And just to reinforce this for you, that if you do get the opportunities, whether your own MPs, councillors, or whatever avenue you have to make government aware of this for us, that'd be really, really helpful. So what I'd like to do now is, we did welcome earlier, I'd like to introduce John Keel again, and if John could tell us a little bit more about himself and his story and where he is and what his projects are at the moment. Thank you, John.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jacqueline, for having me. Even though, full disclosure, we've become very close friends over the last couple of years. The full story is I had a childhood love of music and mathematics. And I went to the one school in the world that could kill a young man's love of mathematics, and that was MIT. And the problem isn't totally on MIT's shoulder. I was a mathematician at an engineering school, and when you're at an engineering school, math is the equivalent of a typewriter. You're not there to learn about the typewriter. You're there to learn about how you construct a plane that weighs 3 pounds and can carry 2 tons of cargo. That's what you do at an engineering school. So I never found myself at MIT. So graduating from MIT, I went immediately into the music world. And I got very lucky. I found a Harvard graduate who sort of didn't find himself at Harvard. And the two of us started a business together. And we were creatives. We created lots of jingles. I assume do you call them jingles in Great Britain? You know, the little ditties that sell us food stores and newspapers and aspirin. And so we did that. We were a jingle company, and one thing led to another. And we started selling out our services to other people who needed recording studios. So skip ahead 40 years, and we have no jingle business anymore. And we've become this very large recording facility that with the sort of the demise of the music industry, which happened sort of in the 1990s, around 2000, the pipeline that went from artists to public got eroded from both ends. At one end, you had the whole Napster phenomena, and the whole notion of intellectual property got very undermined by the technology. So you were no longer able to hang on to your paycheck from your intellectual property. So that got eroded away at the consumer end. At the other end, the manufacturing end, the technology got easier and easier and easier for people to make. So all the equity that I and other people in the recording industry had built up over 10, 20, 30 years, all of that expertise sort of got embedded into the technology itself. So everybody and his brother now can make a very competitive product in their living rooms. So we were fortunate as a company in that we started in a city that was not one of the what's the word, destinations for the recording industry. I was in Boston, Massachusetts, which has a very vibrant music community because of some wonderful music schools that are there. Berklee School of Music, New England Conservatory of Music, Longy School of Music, the Boston University, blah, 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 blah. There's 300,000 kids that descend on Boston every fall and make it a very vibrant educational city. So it was a vibrant music community, but not a vibrant recording studio community. And because we started our business there, we sort of said yes to every person who came to the front door. And I guess if you're looking for bumper stickers that I've lived my life by as an entrepreneur, I would say one of them is just say yes. And so we said yes to everybody that came to our front door. So suddenly we found ourselves involved with every possible kind of recording. Well, skip ahead 40 years. That served us very well when the music industry imploded. And we said, well, what else is there to be had? And sort of that same day, a woman came into our office and said, this was around 1995, and said, I just did my first motion picture soundtrack, meaning the sound effects and the dialogue, that used all this fun new computer-based technology that the music industry is using, but Hollywood is not interested in this yet. But I sure am interested in it. So she brought us this motion picture job that ended up, it was a wonderful little film called Welcome to the Dollhouse. Her name was Margaret Crimmins, and Barking Dog Sound was the name of her music sound supervision company. Well, lo and behold, that film, that little independent film by Todd Solondz, an NYU motion picture student graduate, won the Sundance Film Festival. Now, you don't really win the Sundance Film Festival. There is what's called the grand jury prize, or the I forget exactly what they call it, the audience prize or something like that. They try to play down the competition as such, but there is this prize that's awarded for the best film, and this little film won. Well, the second year we tried our hand at doing motion picture sound, we won again at this at the Sundance Film Festival, a little film called Sunday by Jonathan Nozeter. The third year we were in business, it's now about 1997, 1998, of the 18 films in competition at Sundance, we did 13 of them. So sort of overnight, mostly because we were in New York City, and New York City is one of the hotbeds of this motion picture work. We were being invited to the party. So 10 years of working with every independent filmmaker, we finally got to the point that we needed to pony up, and we expanded our operation. And I'm a real big believer in getting lucky. I don't think that you want to get lucky, and you know, so you do have to buy the lottery ticket to get lucky. But unlike lotteries, in life, you will get lucky. You will be rewarded for showing up. So we ponied up, and as soon as we built a world-class recording studio, our first client was Sex and the City, which was already a big phenomena in America. And then the minute we did Sex and the City, the other serious filmmakers in New York City took us seriously. And so I've been doing Martin Scorsese's work since 2005. We've done all of his films in the last 15 years. So that's, I can go on and on, you know, about what it means to be an entrepreneur. And I've got all sorts of rules of thumb that I live by. One of them is the paycheck comes decades after the work, but I can tell you the journey is well worth it. I look back, I feel like I haven't worked a day in my life. They've been long days, and the buck stops on your desk every day. But I think there's a great poem. There's a great poem by Auden, I think it is, who says, "The world will cheat no one of their successes," is the line. And so that's one of the things I've experienced as an entrepreneur. And then by way of introduction, if we go back to the mid-70s, after I had graduated from MIT with absolutely no music skills, but just a love of music, I started studying privately. And there was this wonderful man in Boston named Charlie Banakis, who taught a half-hour jazz piano lessons. And I was not even a pianist, and I started studying with Charlie because I needed to know the vocabulary of jazz. And so he put up with the fact that I wasn't much of a piano player. As a matter of fact, many of his students weren't much of piano players, and he took that into consideration. But Charlie was so inspiring that most people would find themselves playing their instruments. It started 2 hours a day, and then it became 4 hours a day, and 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, just to keep up with what Charlie was sort of asking of you. And one of those persons I met along the way was Napua. And I was a bass player, so I became very valuable to piano players. I could go over to their homes, and we would sit there and do our exercises for Charlie together, because at some level they were very boring. Charlie insisted that every song we played in all 12 keys, which can be quite tedious at first. But the whole point is, within weeks, he sort of liberates you from being grounded in looking at the keyboard as white notes and black notes. You suddenly look at the keyboard and you see entire contours. You see the cliffs of Dover, and then you see the Sahara Desert, and then you see the, you see the lake region of Michigan. Each key has an appearance on the keyboard, and you learn to hear it, and you learn to see it, and your fingers learn to find their way around. And so Charlie was a godsend to my life as a young musician. And let me stop there. Jacqueline, did I miss some aspect of my story that you...
No, I think that's it. But what would be nice, I mean, I'm not sure if you have to dash off at the end of the session, because what we do when we finish the formal stuff, we kind of stay online for about 15 minutes just chatting.
Oh, sure.
So, okay, so if that would be great if you're okay to do that. And on that point, this is a perfect time to introduce our other guest today, who is Nupur. And welcome again. So if you'd like to just tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll play this wonderful piece of music that you've done.
Okay. Well, I'm choked up because of what John said. It's so deep what Charlie Banakis gave us. And I was a young singer with a fledgling knowledge. I mean, I played rhythm guitar like a folk singer. And at this point in my life, I've really realized that I had to understand music much more deeply than, in spite of the fact that I emerged out of my mother's womb singing, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that led me to Charlie Banakis. And he has a way of unspiraling the potential in a person with such a magical, funny, I can't find words. And John already said it, so I won't spoil that. But the landscapes that John described in music, because of the psychology that you find in harmony, has led me into writing music with a lot of story. I've been in musical theater. I went from being a jazz singer with a classical background and always singing, but then it was theater. It's absolutely theater, and it is the ability to be in the music as a character who is giving an idea, as opposed to any number of other ways of doing music. We can just, groove and groove and groove and groove, and that's on kind of here. But theater makes you, or allows you to tell big stories and talk about the kind of situations in life that really take you by your cojones. So anyway, so I've been engaged in telling these stories through music, and so I've been writing constantly for a while now, about more than 15 years, because I was not a writer, as I think I said before. I was a singer and interpreted music. And I did write some lyrics. I love words. I'm a polyglot. I, sing in many different languages. Every classical singer does. And, but it is this connection with theater that has led me to a way to speak about my outrage at the inequalities of the world and the climate crisis and everything that has brought us to this very point of having a dress rehearsal for the next catastrophe. And it is my anger about this which prompted me to write the first song that you'll hear. The song that you're going to see in the video is actually two songs. The first is about how we get corrupted, our souls or people, you know, it really comes down to psychology, doesn't it? No, I guess maybe spiritual is before that. But anyway, when you get corrupted, you do terrible things because you somehow lose connection with your sense of, you know, what's the right thing to do. I mean, you really get swept away. And so I have been, that idea was already in my mind for quite a while. And somebody I know from St. Petersburg, Russia, that I have done a lot of work with, he's a composer and a pianist before I became a composer and a better pianist. And anyway, he had written this song that basically I had this, he had parts of it that I'm not even using in this song. And so, and this has been evolving for about 20 years. Can you imagine that? A song evolving for 20 years. But anyway, so now what you're going to hear is like the second part, no, the third part of the song that he never even knew. And then the second part of the song, I think is the only thing that we have left from that, or I have to deal with my copyright on this, is just going around half of the cycle of fifths, which is your way of seeing the kaleidoscope of the wonder of the world through a musician's eyes. And,
okay, so sorry.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, so I thought you were ready for the film.
Oh, I was just going to say, we recorded this song with this wonderful tenor singer who is not only an opera singer, but also an R&B singer. And that's what I like, because I see there are absolutely no borders anywhere. And certainly not in music, which is just an expression of everything anyway. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, anyway, we'd already recorded this, but then this thing happened, the coronavirus, and the song was called New York. And so I just retooled the song, you know, and so we've been playing it every, and it was only on April 9th that I realized that I have this song and that I should adapt it to the situation. I have lived in New York City for 35 years, and it's, whew, it is my home. And it's terrible to see this happen. And the only silver lining on this cloud is that we get something out of this, that we learn from it and we organize ourselves in order to find the proper solutions. Thank you very much, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much. So hopefully now we're going to see these incredible pieces.
The Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn and Queens, Manhattan, you got another drum you're beating to. Where are the lights on old Broadway? Yeah, I'd like to stroll Fifth Avenue, but for now be sure you take good care. For now be sure you're staying where you are. 'Cause you are New York, New York, New York. Caution, it's a pity. Children in the city. New York, New York, New York. No, it ain't bad, but you a hell of a city. Stay strong, stay tough, New York. Stay strong, stay tough, New York. Stay strong, stay tough, New York. Caution, it's bad. Children in the city. It's a rise, a half of my high. Take us up, kiss the sky. Buildings that rise on half a mile. Take us up on kiss. Take us up on kiss the sky. The Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. You got another drum you're beating to. Where are the lights on? Oh, Broadway, yeah. I like to stroll Fifth Avenue, but for now be sure you take good care. For now be sure you're staying where the Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Queens, Manhattan. You got another drum you're beating to. Where are the lights on? Oh, Broadway, yeah. I like to stroll Fifth Avenue, but for now be sure you take good care. For now be sure you're staying where you are. 'Cause you are New York, New York. Caution, it's a bit children in the city. New York, New York, New York. Know it ain't pretty, but you're in hell of a city. Stay strong, stay tough, New York. 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 New York, New York, New York. Caution if you live. Children in the city. New York, New York, New York. Caution it's bad. You one hell of a city. New York, New York, New York. Caution it's bad. Children in the city. New York, New York, New York. No it ain't bad. But you one hell of a city. You are New York.
Wow. Wow, that was incredible. That was incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Very powerful.
Very, very, very powerful. Thank you. That was, I've got goosebumps, Napua.
My
That was,
students would love that.
and I loved that it was so diverse. It's super. It's really, really super. Are you putting this forward? Are you putting it out there? Are you kind of monetizing it to raise funds for anything, or how are you wanting this to be shared? And
you know, we're about to just release the song as a single.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And what that, I really take baby steps. I have no idea, to tell you the truth. It's part of the bigger, it happens because of the coronavirus. That's how this song ended up like this. But this has been a part of a body of work of about, I don't know even how many songs, because of this show named Celia that John mentioned, which is the story of Celia Sanchez and the way history keeps repeating itself, truly. And so that's a big musical theater show with, lots of dancers, 9, 12 dancers on the stage, that kind of a thing. And so we were in the process of recording. That's why we had those, the rhythm tracks that you hear. Those we did 2 years ago. And then we put the other stuff on top later. But thank God we had this. And on top of it, I didn't even realize, I had not heard the mix, the rhythm mix, or if I had, I forgot, which is probably what happened, right? Anyway, so I just happened to be going through the music because we're working on, releasing, this music from this show, or at least, putting it up on CD Baby and things like that. Anyway, and I just happened to find the mix the day that I realized I guess it was my finding that mix, just the rhythm section, and really liking it because it was really raw, that made me think I have to do something with this song, or else it wouldn't have even been written.
Well, it's just incredible. It's just so timely and amazing, as is all of your work from what I've seen. And I know we could talk all day because there's so much that you did around Celia, and I had the privilege of coming into the studio in New York and how you supported us at Liverpool. So there's so much to talk about, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do that later. But so thank you both so much. The next part of our session, the health and well-being guru. We all know how important it is to maintain positive health and well-being alongside running our businesses. And obviously we hear every week from Aaron. And I'm sorry, I hope you've still got time. I wasn't sure if you had to dash off today. Just to give us your words of wisdom this week, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, it's great to hear the music, New York, New York. I was going to jump and dance with you, Nupur, but beautiful piece of music. It celebrates the life of New York, which just loved it. For one of the things that I've been working on is a new article that I'm doing for another group, which is the how to count the cost when it comes to your health and well-being. And I love the first part where the phrase that you're using for today is "this too will pass." And I think it's so important when it comes to our health and well-being is not to get stuck in the now, though you're living the now and the reality of the now. It's also understanding that this moment is just that. It's just a moment. And so it's important to put in place the ability to sit down, think about where you're at, where you want to be, and begin to count the cost. So how do we do that? I mean, you being entrepreneurs, you all know this, but when it comes to your health and well-being, sometimes what we do is we compartmentalize different things that we don't know. And sometimes we don't understand that which we do in one area of our life can actually be applied in another area of our life. And so first of all, you want to look at, you want to put together a plan which has a goal. I read something I want to read to you real quick that I thought was really good to help illustrate this point. It says, a dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. And so in the process, when it comes to our health and well-being, maybe it's our physical health. Some of us, I've heard some write to me and saying, I've put on a lot of weight because I've not been able to be as active as I normally am due to in the lockdown situation. And so I think it's very important that you write down a plan. So if, say, for example, I'm going to be in a wedding, God willing, in London on August 1st. And so I'm thinking, well, by that date, I need to give a little bit more trim just because it's a special friend's wedding. So what I do is I put a goal to that and I set a plan. Okay, so I'm going to look at my nutrition. I'm going to look at my physical fitness, things that I can do. And then I begin to prepare myself for that. So a lot of the planning and prepping that I do is actually, something that I think Nupur was saying, a lot of this is psychological. So when you begin to put things down onto paper and start to, plan out a calendar of how you're going to achieve this goal, what you're actually doing is you're actually telling yourself that you're making some changes to bring about the results. So first of all, you make the plan and then you prepare. And you set out, for example, if it has to do with a nutrition plan that you have, well, you can have that plan all you want until you actually break that down into those steps and prepare your food, for example, or your menu for the week or the month or whatever it is. It's just a plan. It's just a dream. It actually has to have more than that. It has to have something that once you begin to prepare, it turns into something that you do more with. So then therefore you invest, you find ways to actually make this happen. And again, talking to entrepreneurs here, you understand the concept of plan, prep, and invest for your business, but what about for your own personal health and well-being? So it may be getting in touch with a personal trainer like myself, and saying, okay, I need you to coach me, encourage me, challenge me, knock on my door, or ring my phone, or keep me going, keep my eyes on the goal, and help me through that process. It may be having to say no to things that are bad investments when it comes to your health and well-being, so that you can make space for the good investments in your health and well-being. And then the fourth thing that I like to talk about is be the change. Be the change. So many of my clients, even myself, when I started out on my journey, over 9 years ago, to become fit and healthy and well, looking at the future in my life and asking, what do I want in my future? I had to realize I couldn't make anyone change but me. And when I realized that once I change me, the world around me changes. So, for example, I had a client who said to me, she'd said, "Oh, I'm not coming today." It was a Saturday morning, and I said, "Well, where are you?" "I'm at home." And I just had this thought in my head: she's probably eaten too much chocolate or too much cake, and she's just jumped off jumped off everything. It's all over. Life's done. And so I said, "Right, I'm coming to your house now," which shocked her. Within 20 minutes, I was on her doorstep. This was a couple of years ago. It's not at this time. Rang the doorbell, and she opened and let me come in. I said, "Let's talk. What's happening? What's going on?" And she basically said, "Well, my family, da 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 da." And I said, "Okay, stop right there." I said, "You have to realize you have to change you first. You can't let anyone around you impact the change that you're making. And the moment you do, it will change the world you're in." And believe it or not, now this is going back 4 years. If you saw this lady today, she is a completely different person. Why? Because she realized she had to be the change. And in being that change, when she made her plan, she did her prep, she then invested in herself, her entire world has changed. So looking to the future, this moment in life, it will pass, and there is a future ahead. So now that you're in a place, we're all in a place where we've got a little bit more time on our hands, why not put some of those dreams into goals and break them down and bring them into action and bring that health and well-being change in your life. That's it for me today.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great as always. Very, very motivating, definitely. So this is the part of our session that if anybody has any questions, if there's anything at the moment that's particularly difficult for you, positive, whatever, we will have a bit of a Q&A separate to the formal part of today with John and Napur when we finish. But if there's anything anybody wants to raise at this moment, now's the time to do that. Fine, that's fine. That's pretty good. That means we're kind of getting the balance right. You're getting the right time to ask the questions as we're going along, which is really good. I would like to just bring James in to introduce himself, because he joined us quite late. And what we'd like to do today is actually play out our formal bit of today with James's new single. So if you could just introduce yourself, James, please.
I'm James. I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. I've got a new song out today. So I've been kind of busy, kind of just replying to people and, and kind of sending things and emails off. So yeah, so I'm from the northwest of England. I've been performing since I was 6 years old. And yeah, and like kind of more recently, I've been working like as a singer-songwriter and writing songs and releasing them and doing gigs and tours and stuff. And like as well as that, I've been doing a lot of work like in education and session work and, you know, recording.
Did you say you're doing? Do you say you're doing a particular piece of music around COVID?
Yeah, so right, so like this week I've been, because I was asked to be involved in a commission to be for like, I think it was about 65 artists to submit artwork to like an archive. They were all like artists from around Greater Manchester, and we've been asked to like you know, just kind of give our sort of experience and kind of tell that experience through our medium of art. And there's like poets and, you know, fine artists and musicians like myself, and so that's what I've been kind of focusing on this week, as well as like sorting out my other single release as well. So yeah, it's been, I kind of feel like I've been busier than usual.
I
don't know if that's
a lot. I hear that a lot at the moment.
You know, like I kind of feel, because I was talking to a guy, because I did a radio interview early this week, just like I was just at home, and it was like a live session. So I just recorded the live session here and then sent it to them beforehand, and then did a phone call interview. And I thought, well, like the interviewer, the guy I interviewed with was a guy I would usually go and see. So if this was like a normal situation, I'd just go into the studio and meet them, because they're based in Manchester. And I was thinking, because I got played on a station in New Orleans last weekend. So I thought, well, I've done an interview with a guy I would see in Manchester, but it wouldn't be any different if I did that with the guy from New Orleans. So I've been doing a lot of that as well. So it's kind of opened a few different doors usually, because like they might, like wherever they are, they would get artists in from their local area, but now because everyone's at home and kind of in sort of little satellites, it doesn't really matter where you are. You can just connect and you know, have interviews with people and stuff.
No,
so right. Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of that, and like for this commission piece, you can see, I think you might be able to see a camera behind me. I've been doing I was filming the video for this piece last night, and I've been doing a lot more of that recently as well. So for the new single, I filmed the video myself, and I asked my brother, who was rather reluctant, to help, like just hold the camera whilst I kind of performed outside around, because I live in quite a rural area, so there's like lots of fields, and we filmed the video there, and I've just edited it myself. So yeah, that's coming out next week as well, and I've just been doing kind of bits of things like that, just to, you know, keep myself kind of occupied, I think, as a mechanism, a coping mechanism, I guess.
Which is, I mean, again, I think music is just incredible at this time. It's just there's so much emotion coming out in people, and I think music is a good grounding point for that. It's I mean, again, personally, I remember probably about 2 weeks ago just feeling very, very down with it, and somebody said, right, put the ABBA documentary on, and 15 minutes later I was dancing away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said, I think, for the arts at the moment to really help us cope with all of this. So we are going to hear James's single before we kind of stop the formal part of this. Before we do that, I want us just to briefly, I'm not going to introduce Monzo to speak personally today because he is an observer, but I would like just to introduce him virtually and tell you all that he is starting his own business, and hopefully he'll tell us all about that next time. We are going to stay online, or on air as people say, about 15 minutes afterwards, but at the end of James's single, that will be the formal bit over. So if you need to go, then please feel free to go, and we'll love to see you again. If you want to stay on for 15 minutes, you're very, very welcome to. And I think if James can play us out, that'd be wonderful. And thank you to everybody, and goodbye if you're not staying with us for the extra time.
So I guess you heard the news. Woke up to the cry of a battle drum. No one knew where the riders had come from. Nobody in hell stood a chance. Then came the rain and the arrows, and one fell swoop. I can call myself a widow. And there is a debt that must be paid. Sundown at home with ransacked, shot down by the devil's riding horseback. Sundown, the band is turned to same shame of black. So I guess you heard the news on the sunrise. We rode into the valley below the fine line between lane and alley. You know how it goes, the pendulum of war. They tell you murder's never easy, but you should have seen the ease in which we did it. How can I deny man's revenge? Sundown, your home was ransacked, shot down by the devil's riding horseback. Sundown, the band has turned to same shade of black.
Wow, another great single, James.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Like
Thank you so much.